أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما نافعا اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the Reflections on the Risale-i Nur by Bediuzzaman Said Nursi podcast series. This is Mustafa Tuna. You can listen to the episodes of this series wherever you get your podcasts, or you can watch them on YouTube at the channel Reflections Are N. You can also access the audio and video versions as well as the text we are reading at the website www.reflections-rn.org. Inshallah. If you go to the website, just go to podcasts, then words, and the 22nd word. That is what we will be reading, or what we will continue to be reading in this episode, inshallah. The 22nd word is a treatise that provides demonstrations for the existence, oneness, and some of the attributes of God. We started the treatise with a story, a representational story, in which we imagine two friends who take a bath in a pool, lose all their senses, and suddenly find themselves in a country that is new to them. They go around and try to understand what's going on. One of them is smart, humble, intelligent, fortunate. He recognizes that this place must have an owner, and that owner must have some regulations for the place. The secret of being able to benefit from this place is in recognizing the owner. So he turns to his friend and asks him to join him in recognizing the owner, but the other friend is not as smart, unfortunate, and stubborn. Unfortunately, he refuses. So the friend who recognizes the owner starts providing demonstrations of the existence and oneness and so on and so forth of the owner. And we are still in that story. We are listening to the demonstrations of that friend in the story. Inshallah, this is the first section of the treatise. In the second section of the treatise, we will also take a deeper look into the reality of what we are observing now in this imaginary country. So, we read through the first 5 demonstrations. We have 12 of them, and now we will continue with the 6th, inshallah. Bismillah. 6. Burhan, 6th demonstration. Gel bu geniş ovaya çıkacağız. İşte o ova içinde yüksek bir dağ var. Üstüne çıkacağız. Ta bütün etrafı görülsün. Hem her şeyi yakınlaştıracak güzel dürbünleri de beraber alacağız. Çünkü bu acayip memlekette acayip işler oluyor. Her saatte hiç aklımıza gelmeyen işler oluyor. Come, we will go to this vast plain. There, on that plain, there is a high mountain. We will climb on it, so that all its surroundings can be visible. We will also take with us beautiful binoculars that bring everything close. For amazing affairs are taking place in this amazing country. Every hour, affairs that do not ever cross our minds are taking place. And now there's a side note here about that vast plain. Haşiye, bahar ve yaz mevsiminde zeminin yüzüne işarettir. Zira yüz binler muhtelif mahlukatın taifeleri birbiri içinde beraber icat edilir. Ruh-i zeminde yazılır. Galatsız, kusursuz, kemal-i intizamla değiştirilir. Binler sofrayı Rahman açılır, kaldırılır, taze taze gelir. Her bir ağaç birer tablacı, her bir bostan birer kazan hükmüne geçer. Side note about the vast plain points to the face of the earth in the spring and summer seasons. For then, various groups of hundreds of different creatures are brought into existence within each other, and written on the face of the earth. They are transformed without fault or defect, with perfect orderliness. Thousands of tables that belong to the merciful are laid out, then removed and replaced by fresh ones. Each tree becomes in effect a tray bearer, and each orchard a cauldron. Okay, let's try to reflect upon this now. Come, we will go to this vast plain, which is an indication to the face of the earth in the spring and summer seasons. Why spring and summer seasons? For then, various groups of hundreds of different creatures are brought into existence within each other. So we are observing this country. We have not seen this before, and we find out that we are not alone here. In fact, it is teeming with life, teeming with other creatures. Hundreds of different creatures are brought into existence within each other and written on the face of the earth within each other. They're all living together. They're sharing the same space. Sometimes they are occupying another one's body as a dwelling. I mean, if you think of it, the mitochondria in the cells of each and every one of our cells, and the cells of animals and so on and so forth, are a kind of bacteria that have their own DNA. So within each cell of our body, we are hosting a separate creature. In addition to all the other various bacteria and mites and whatnot that we are hosting in and on our bodies. This is a whole system. I mean, put aside the systems that we can observe based on an examination of our organs, like the respiratory system, right? The pulmonary system and digestive system, and so on and so forth. Put that aside, there is a system that is formed by separate creatures that come together depending on one another. And as a result, all together amount to the living body that we have. Subhanallah. And then, ants live under tree barks, and birds and squirrels use the trees as their dwelling, and so on and so forth. That you can multiply the examples, and all these examples will point to one fact, that everything here is dependent on one another. We are together. And not only that they exist depending on one another, but they, as we read, are transformed without fault or defect, with perfect orderliness. Because remember, we are in this land, and now we are in the spring and summer seasons. In the winter, most of these creatures had died. The trees had shed their leaves and turned into bone-dry wood that is almost lifeless. Many insects just died, leaving their eggs behind. Many plants just died, leaving their seeds behind. And all of a sudden, there comes the summer, and everything is teeming with life. The leaves are shooting on the tiny branches. They are transformed, and as they are transformed in a perfect balance, in a perfect ecosystem. They are transformed without fault or defect, with perfect orderliness. Thousands of tables that belong to the merciful are laid out. Right? So all of these creatures, they are living, and all living creatures need sustenance. They need provisions. And they Each need a specific type of sustenance, right? The panda bears, right, eat bamboo shoots. Imagine a place where, imagine a world where there is no bamboo shoots, there will be no pandas. But God grows the bamboo shoots where the panda is. Ants need leaves. There comes the spring, and those leaves grow on the branches. Birds need insects. Birds need insects. The birds are born, come out of their eggs, start to grow, and insects start to proliferate. They're everywhere. Thousands of tables that belong to the merciful are laid out. Butterflies need sweet juice from flowers. Flowers start to open up, bloom, invite the butterflies with their colors and smells, and provide that sweet nutrition to them. And then they are removed, right? There comes the fall again, and then there comes the spring again, and replaced by fresh ones. Each tree becomes in effect a tray bearer, and each orchard a cauldron. Each garden a cauldron. In the cauldron of that garden, watermelons are being cooked. Watermelons are being prepared. And then you go and pick it up and eat, and it's delicious and refreshing. And that's what you needed in that summer heat. Come, we will go to this vast plain. There, on that plain, there is a high mountain. We will climb on it so that all its surroundings can be visible. Right? So we will use instruments too. We will not just sit where we are and look around and try to understand. No, we will be inquisitive. We will go around. We will use instruments. We will try to understand this thing in depth. We will look, right? That's what we are still in the story, but in reality, that's what our Lord commands us to do too. We will look. We will also take with us beautiful binoculars that bring everything close. Now, beautiful, it's not because the binoculars are having like nice color and nicely shaped and have ornaments on it, etc. That may be also true, but beautiful in the sense that they are clear, they provide good vision, and they show things in a beautiful way. Not in order to be deceptive, but because reality is beautiful, as we have said many times in this podcast. Reality is beautiful, and these binoculars show the beautiful aspect of things. We will take with us beautiful binoculars. We will take with us a viewpoint, a perspective, and that's very important, right? Looking at the world with the right viewpoint, with the right perspective, from the right angle. That's a task for us. It's not, again, this is not in order to play Pollyanna. We are not going to try to be overly, excessively, misleadingly optimistic. No. We will try to see reality as reality is. And once we understand that reality is beautiful, then we put those binoculars or those glasses, those lenses that show reality as reality is, then we will see the beautiful aspects of things. Then we will start to see the ultimate purpose of every created being, which is to be a locus of manifestation for its creator. You will start to see what is manifest on them. If you think of everything as a mirror, what image does a mirror have? If you think of it, Mirrors are imageless. We are not thinking about a tableau. We are not thinking about a picture. We are thinking about a mirror. There is no image on a mirror until you hold it onto something, right? In terms of the image on it, the mirror is blank, nothing. But when you hold it onto something, it shows you wherever you whatever you hold it to. And the closer the mirror is to nothingness, the better it shows, because then there will be nothing on the glass of the mirror to veil or ruin or change the image that you are trying to get by pointing it to, by turning it to something, right? So things in this universe, in this cosmos, every created being that we can see and we cannot see, they are all locus of manifestation of God's self-disclosure, his names, his attributes, his conducts, right? And that's beautiful because God is beautiful. And if we look with the right perspective, we start to see that beauty. Said Nursi calls this the indicative meanings of things, let's stick with that translation, okay? Indicative meaning of things. What a thing indicates, not in itself, but in terms of what is being reflecting on it. What is reflecting on it, in terms of what it is reflecting, right? So the tree indicates itself to some degree, but the tree indicates its creator to thousands of to a thousands of higher degree than that it indicates itself. So that's why we want beautiful binoculars. We want the right perspective. For amazing affairs are taking place in this amazing country. We want to be able to see that which is amazing. We want to be able to see that which is amazing. We want to get beyond the point of looking at the tree and not seeing anything, out of heedlessness, out of desensitizing familiarity. We want to see the amazing, amazing art, the miraculous art, the amazing wisdom and purpose that is on the tree or on our fingertips or on a piece of rock or whatever we turn to, whatever we look at. Every hour, affairs that do not ever cross our minds are taking place. Affairs that don't ever cross our minds. Right? This is the work of a mind, an intelligence, an entity with knowledge and will and choice, volition, that is far beyond our minds. And when we look around, what we see is that we happen to be the smartest around here. We happen to be the ones with the highest level of volition. And what we look around and see is way beyond our volition. Then it must be from outside, right? It must be that hidden hand that we have been talking about in these episodes. It is not from itself. It is given to it. It comes from a source that we cannot see here. And that is what this fortunate friend was telling all along, right? Saying all along. There is an owner here. There's a hidden hand that is operating behind a veil. We need to try to understand it. We need to try to learn about it. That's the point. İşte bak, bu dağlar ve ovalar ve şehirler birden değişiyor. Hem nasıl değişiyor? Öyle bir tarzda ki milyonlarla birbiri içinde işler gayet muntazam surette değişiyor. Adeta milyonlar mütenevvi kumaşlar birbiri içinde beraber dokunuyor gibi pek acayip tahavvülat oluyor. Here, look. These mountains, plains, and cities are suddenly changing. Remember, look, we were observing the seasons, spring, and both fall and spring and all seasons are amazing. Like imagine when it snows and everything is covered with a white cover, how suddenly things change, right? But spring appears to be even more miraculous and amazing because it is not uh, just a still image, as everything covered in white, but it is teeming with life. It is constantly moving. There is a motion and transformation. Here, look, these mountains, plains, and cities are suddenly changing. Indeed, look how they are changing in such a fashion that millions of affairs within one another are changing in utter orderliness. Amazing transformations are taking place, as though millions of various fabrics are being woven within one another. These mountains, plains, and cities are suddenly changing. Indeed, look how they are changing. So it's not only that they are changing, but they are changing in certain ways, in such a fashion that millions of affairs within one another are changing in utter orderliness, in sync, like an orchestra. Imagine a huge orchestra, 100 musicians, violins and drums and piano and flutes and whatnot. They're all playing all at once, but they're playing in sync. So it's not like the drum, for instance, is just beating one rhythm only, like boom, boom, boom. No, that's not the case. It keeps increasing the tempo, decreasing the tempo, increasing the volume, the intensity of the hit, and the flute is not just playing, I don't know, like do or C. No, it goes C, A, B, D, do, mi, F, constantly changing. And amazingly, all 100 musicians are doing what they are doing, changing the particular note that they are playing in a way that is harmonious with each other. Now that's only 100 musicians playing in sync. Now try to imagine that you went out to the countryside and you are perhaps staying on the mountains. Imagine how the music that the plants, animals, rocks, springs, clouds, if you have those binoculars that show you things that you would not be able to see with your naked eye, the bacteria, viruses, elements, molecules, cells that is surrounding you, all around you on that mountain. Perhaps you can see up to 5 miles away or 10 miles away, 15 kilometers, 20 kilometers away. Perhaps you can see that far. Imagine how there is an ecosystem in that whole thing that is playing its music in harmony, in sync. Now, when it is the musicians, you will think, well, they rehearsed, they all have these music sheets in front of them that they are looking at, and they have a conductor that is giving them directions, and they have done this many times. There's an internal timer in their minds. Yes, exactly. All these things have to happen for that music to play. Then how come that the music will be playing on that mountain region that you're observing? How come all these things will be doing what they are doing when they are supposed to be doing it and in the way that they are supposed to be doing it and with the kind of consideration that they have to have for what others are doing as they are doing it. Unless there's a program, divine determination. Unless there is somebody who knows what everybody is doing and gives them their tasks, right, in time, as necessary, in a way that they will understand by turning to them. Like the conductor does not always turn to the same person. The conductor keeps making eye contacts and turning in different directions. The knowledge, right? And power. And power. The difference is that in the case of the musicians, we may possibly imagine that each musician is self-propelled. They are playing it with their own power, right? But I mean, the reality of it is that nobody has any power. But let's change that aspect of the example if that is what comes to our minds, and let's now look at this whole orchestra on the mountaintop and understand that nothing has power from its own. Nothing here has knowledge of anything else or even itself. The elements, the molecules, the atoms, the cells, the leaf, the plant root, the stalk, the ant, the butterfly, the wolf, the deer, they don't have anywhere near enough consciousness or capability to do any of the things that they appear to be doing in such a fashion that millions of affairs within one another are changing in utter orderliness. Again, like those billions of creatures that are in our bodies, in my body right now, they are doing what they're supposed to do. And as a result of that, I am able to talk here. If 10% of those creatures that are in my body stop doing what they are doing, I mean, they could still be doing something, but if they stop doing it in the way that the orderliness of my existence necessitates, forget about 10%. If 1% of them stop doing it, I would not be here. I would be somewhere in a hospital, and I would probably be, soon dead. Amazing transformations are taking place, as though millions of various fabrics are being woven within one another. As though millions of various fabrics are being woven within one another. Said Nursi usually uses this example to refer to leaves. But you can also think about our skins. Like feel your skin. It is like a fabric that is placed on your body in a way that it fits perfectly. Has any human being ever had any outfit made by the best designer, tailor, that fits better than their skin? Look at this. It fits perfectly on my body, and not only that, it also has so many functions. It can feel, right? It can feel moisture, it can feel heat, it can feel touch pressure. It renews. I mean, I keep using my hand and I keep rubbing it to places, and then it keeps, getting old and being scuffed. And I had pants that I used to wear 20 years ago. I don't wear them any longer because they got old. But I'm wearing my skin and it is being renewed. It inhales and exhales. It lets me sweat, which helps me discharge toxins and also just manipulate my temperature. and so on and so forth. I'm not a biologist or a doctor. If I were, I could probably give more examples. But look at these. Look at these. Like this skin is being renewed all the time. It is being woven all the time. Those leaves on the trees attached to the branches, they're not just beautiful. They are beautiful. They are not, but they are not just beautiful. They do amazing things. They are each like a factory that is being produced in a factory. It is produced in the factory or the machine of or the bench of the tree, and then it is produced and attached to the tree, and then it starts to work as a machine itself by receiving the light photons and taking in carbon dioxide and carbon and taking carbon dioxide and separating, taking the carbon and exhaling oxygen. How amazing this is. Look at the tissues. The skin is only one tissue, but look at all the other tissues that are in our bodies. They are being woven within one another in a way to fit each other in perfect ways. How is this? How is this possible without something that has the knowledge, the power, the wisdom, so that knows like what works for what the purposes, understanding of the purposes, who sees, who can choose. How is it possible? How can it be possible without that hidden hand? In the absence of that hidden hand, this just is inexplicable. Bak, o kadar ünsiyet ettiğimiz ve tanıdığımız çiçekli miçekli şeyler kayboldular. Muntazaman yerlerine ve mahiyetçe onlara benzer fakat suretçe ayrı başkaları geldiler. Adeta şu ova, dağlar birer sahife, yüz binlerle ayrı ayrı kitaplar içinde yazılıyor. Hem hatasız, noksansız olarak yazılıyor. Look, the flowery things with which we had become so familiar and gotten to know disappeared. Now we were in the spring and then summer, and during the spring and summer we got used to that beautiful environment. The trees became tray bearers of fruits, and we picked them and we ate them. The gardens, the orchards became cauldrons from which we picked up our watermelon and refreshed ourselves, and so on and so forth. And we started to take all of that for granted. We started to take all of that for granted, and we started to say, yeah, so what? Like normal. We started to lose our sense of wonder. We became desensitized, became familiar, and familiarity started to prevent us from being able to see how amazing those things are, how wondrous those things are. I mean, sometimes this happens in our life. I mean, it happens all the time, but sometimes it happens in our lives in more visible, observable ways, and then suddenly God takes a blessing away, and we recognize, oh God. We recognize that blessing was amazing, and we really needed it, and it was so beautiful. But we had started to stop. We had stopped to recognize its beauty. Like the ability of being able to exist in the same room with other people and talk with them. That's what we experienced with the pandemic, when COVID, the virus, hit for at least a couple of years. How we were taking that for granted, and how grateful we are now for being able to go back to some level of normalcy and being able to talk with people, shake hands with people, hug our friends. Subhanallah. So it was summer, and we got used to these blessings, and then all of a sudden, the flower things with which we had become so familiar, the flowers, the beauty that's out there, and gotten to know, they disappeared. We recognize that they are not there anymore. And then there came another spring. Others that are like them, in quiddity but different in form, replaced them. What does that mean? Say I had a rose bush in my garden, and it was blooming really beautifully, all these red, bright, smiling rosebuds on it. I looked at it, summer, and I appreciated it. But over time, I started to be desensitized to its beauty. I started to just pass by, and I continue to be taken over by the stress of my life, forgetting that those flowers are there and they could actually give me a sense of relaxation. And then they disappeared, and now I feel their absence, and all of a sudden they came back. Now, they are same in quiddity in the sense that I recognize these new buds that are blooming in the spring as rose flowers. I knew them last year. I became familiar with them. I know them from last year, and these are the same as what was there last year in quiddity in terms of what it is. Right? That it was rose last year. I came to recognize rose as rose by seeing it, and this year again it is rose. I recognize it as rose, but it is not the exact same, because last year it was on top of this branch. This year it is on top of this branch. Last year it was 3 inches wide at the radius, right? This year it is 2.7 inches wide, and so on and so forth. There will be all these differences in form, shape, position, so on and so forth. But in quiddity, it's the same thing. So there is no nothing in the creation is same as before, right? Nothing remains the same, and when things are renewed and replaced, nothing comes as the same, but they are similar. There's similarity. In Arabic and Turkish it is called there is no ayniyet, but there's misliyet, right? There's similitude, not sameness. So they are like the ones before in quiddity in what they are, but they are different in form. It is as though this plain and these mountains are each a page, and hundreds of thousands of different books are being written within them. So it's not just a still picture. It's not just a book that is written once and put in front of us to read. And that is usually the example we give to understand the art in creation and so on and so forth. But it is more than that. It is not just one book that is written and put in front of us. The cosmos, right? It is the great book of the universe, the great book of the cosmos. That is true, but it is not just one book that is written and put out there for us to read. No, it is constantly being rewritten. Whoever wrote the one before has to have preserved the knowledge of what was there while it was not there. So the knowledge of that has to be preserved somewhere, because it's not there any longer. Right? Someone is preserving that knowledge and writing it again. And when he writes it again, he doesn't write the exact same thing, because if he wrote the exact same thing, we could perhaps say, well, it is the seeds, right? That's what biology would tell you. The seed contains the information of the DNA, and therefore it's happening again. Yes, but there are all these slight differences in form, position, shape, direction, etc., that indicates that it is not the same thing. It is very similar. It's same in quiddity. But whoever preserved that information also has continuous willpower and volition, and showing me that he can and he is creating anew. This is from him. He's showing me that this is from him. This is not anything that is built into the system. It's not from within the box. It is as though this plain and these mountains are each a page, and hundreds of thousands of different books are being written within them. And also, it is not just that a book was there last year and it is written again this year in a very similar way, but that if I look close enough, if I know how to use those binoculars well enough, what I will see is that on the form of the figure of each letter, or in the form figure of each letter, there is another book that is written, like a fractal system. Each segment of the fractal is, if you zoom in close enough, the same as the whole of the fractal, right? In this case, it is even better because there are slight differences indicating that whoever made the whole made each piece one by one with special attention, with special designation. His knowledge is so amazing that nothing can escape his knowledge or sight or hand of power. He's doing each and every particular thing one by one. Moreover, they are being written without mistake or deficiency. So, countless letters on the book. In the book, each letter has a book within that letter. They all come together and play a synchronous, harmonious, beautiful music. They all come together and indicate meanings. They are not just randomly thrown figures that happen to be like letters that we identify as letters, but they come together and they form words. Words come together and form sentences. Sentences come together and form paragraphs. Paragraphs form passages. Passages form stories. There's a story that's being narrated in here. And the music is beautiful. There is no musician who is somehow playing a note that breaks the music. There is no word that's out of place. There are no typos. Now, of course, partial human volition gets involved in the picture when we look at the reality. There, partial human volition gets in the picture and sometimes ruins things, ruins the harmony. But in an even bigger picture, that too is harmonious. There is a purpose to, and wisdom in the partial human wisdom, and in a bigger picture, even that fits into the harmony. Even that is playing what it is supposed to be playing. In that particular passage of the symphony, that this particular sound may sound like out of place, but perhaps it is leading to a new theme in the music, and something has to come out in order to lead the others. Right? So even things that appear to look out of place in this book or in this symphony are in place. There is no mistake, no deficiency. So much is being done, so perfectly, so purposefully, so beautifully, so wisely, and it's all being done without mistake or deficiency. Subhanallah. How can you not say Subhanallah? İşte bu işler 100 derece muhaldir ki kendi kendine olsun. Evet, nihayet derecede sanatlı, dikkatli şu işler kendi kendine olmak 1000 derece muhaldir ki kendilerinden ziyade sanatkarlarını gösteriyorlar. Here, it is 100 times inconceivable that these affairs will take place by themselves. Yes, It is 1,000 times inconceivable for these utterly artful and careful affairs to take place by themselves, and therefore they are showing their artists more than themselves. And that's what we have been talking about all along. How can all this happen by itself? It cannot. So much, so many parts, components, neither of which has the power, knowledge, consciousness, willpower, volition, ability to recognize, see, hear. None of them have any of this. Yet they are all behaving as though they know each other, as though they know the overall system, as though they are capable of and willing to do what they are doing, and do so in a way that helps everything else do what they are supposed to be doing. Now imagine, let's continue with that example. Imagine the orchestra. They're playing the music, it's beautiful. Now imagine that each and every one of the musicians in the orchestra are deaf and blind. And they're also paralyzed, by the way. They are deaf, they're blind, they're paralyzed, but at the same time, their hands are moving, and they are acting as though they are able to read what is written on the music sheet in front of them, and they're able to hear the notes that are being played by all the other players, musicians. They're acting as though they see the conductor and they are following the conductor's commands. And again, they're paralyzed, but their hands are moving. And then you come and say, well, this is happening by itself. It cannot happen by itself. The carbon atom is deaf and blind and is paralyzed. It does not have the power to do anything in itself. Physics does not and cannot explain where that power that holds the electron around the nucleus of the atom is coming from. Yes, we say opposite poles attract each other. Good. But why? Why do opposite poles attract each other? They don't have hands reaching out to the other and pulling it, holding it and grabbing it and pulling it. There's space between them. There is so much space that if you were to take out all the space from all the atoms in a huge skyscraper and squeeze it, right? Like vacuum all the space out, it would become as small as, I don't know, a teaspoon of something. The particular measures may be different, but that's the idea. There's so much space in between them, but through that space, they are pulling one another or pushing one another. They don't have the power to do that. We don't see that power. We don't see that force. Where is it coming from? They're paralyzed. The two hydrogen atoms don't see the oxygen atom, don't know the oxygen atom to bind with it and make water. And what a water that is! So purposeful, so beneficial. It is the essential provision for the existence of life. does hydrogen atom know that I need water? That the rosemary plant that's growing in the garden needs water? It doesn't. It doesn't know that. It doesn't know what water is. It doesn't know the rosemary plant. But it is playing its part in the symphony perfectly with the rosemary plant and me. How is that happening? The musicians of the orchestra are deaf, blind, paralyzed. By the way, they're also dumb. They don't know anything. But they're playing. Yes, it's 1,000 times inconceivable for these utterly artful and careful affairs. Artful because the product of their seeming actions, because they are doing things, right? But are they the ones who are the agents of what they are doing? That's the question, right? But they are doing things. We observe them as doing things. The product of what they do is perfectly artful. It's beautiful, aesthetic, measured, thoughtful, has content, has meaning. And they are doing this in such a way that they have to be paying attention to what the others are doing. They're so careful in what they are doing. There is no mistake or deficiency in the end product. It is 1,000 times inconceivable for these utterly artful and careful affairs to take place by themselves. And therefore, they are showing their artist more than themselves. So the deaf, blind, dumb, paralyzed musician that we see as moving her hands and making these notes with the instrument that is given in her hand, right? Moving. And we look at the whole thing and amazing things are coming out of this musician. Does that musician show herself or himself, right, as someone capable of playing music, or does she show a hidden hand that is moving it like a puppet? Does a puppet show, like imagine a sock puppet. You know that there's a hand in the sock, but you don't see the hand. And you watch it, and it's so enthralling that you're engrossed, and you watch it, and you are into the story that these, let's say, two sock puppets that are narrating, and you spend a really amazing time for 10 minutes. At the end of 10 minutes, as you are exiting the room, you see those two socks that are turned into puppets lying down at the corner of the room. Do you attribute the play that you watched to those two socks, or to the hands that were in the socks and the owner of the hand, the mind of the hand, the voice of the hand? Do you go and congratulate the socks, right? Thank you, it was an amazing play that you put up? Or do you find the puppeteer and go shake the puppeteer's hand and thank the puppeteer? Do you appreciate the socks or the puppeteer? Of course you appreciate the puppeteer. You don't go and thank the socks. Right? What you observed as puppets show the puppeteer the ability, the knowledge, the creativity, the skill, and so on and so forth, the existence, of course, of the puppeteer, thousands of times more than they show the painted sock that they are. Hem bunları işleyici öyle muciznuma bir zattır ki hiçbir iş ona ağır gelmez. 1000 kitap yazmak bir harf kadar ona kolay gelir. Moreover, the one who operates these is such a miracle working person that no affair is heavy for him. Writing 1,000 books is as easy for him as writing one letter. The one who operates these, like the socks, we said it's not the socks, there are hands in the socks, right? Somebody is moving the socks. Somebody is moving those musicians. Somebody is moving those subatomic particles. Somebody is moving the atom. Somebody is moving the molecule. Somebody is moving the cell. Somebody is moving the organs that those cells come together and start to function together. Somebody is moving the body that those organs come together and form. Somebody is moving the congregation of these bodies, the orchard, the pack of animals, the constellation of stars, the what we call air, which is a congregation of various molecules and atoms. Somebody is moving all the musicians in this orchestra. Somebody is writing all the words in this book. It's not the letters that somehow come one after the other and form meanings, right? Somebody is operating this whole thing and everything in it. The one who operates these, and once we granted that somebody's operating them, then we have another challenge. It's amazing. There are so many things, so many, like billions and trillions and whatever is the uncountable, not infinite. God knows the number of things, but uncountable, right? Uncountable number of things all moving at the same time in a way to make this whole harmonious, beautiful system possible. And nothing in here can do it. Then it is a miracle working person who is in charge. Miracle working in the sense that it is each and everything within this box, within this seen realm that we can observe in this country, right? Each and everything in and of itself is impotent, does not have the power, powerless to do any of the things that it is doing, let alone making the whole system function. Everything in the face of the tasks that face them are incapacitated. And that indicates that whoever is doing this has absolute power that cannot be restrained or restricted in any way whatsoever. A miracle working person that no affair is heavy for him. Nothing is heavy for him. And if nothing is heavy for him, writing 1,000 books is as easy for him as writing one letter. Now, this goes beyond what we can observe, right? We can observe that at any given time, one book is written, or in our lifetime, if you think of each spring as a book, for instance, say 70, 80 books are written. But we understand from what we observe that he can write 1,000 books, 10,000 books, 100,000 books, millions of books, infinite number of books with the same ease. With the same ease, because that's what we are observing. It everything happens giving an impression of so much ease and facility that when we don't take those binoculars and look with that right perspective, we don't even see how miraculous and amazing these are. He has absolute power. Before absolute power, nothing is difficult. Put next to infinite, right? This is the example from mathematics. Put next to infinite, all numbers amount to 0. Divide the highest number that you can write on a piece of paper. Write as small as possible, put as many zeros as you want. Divide that number by infinite, what you get is 0. So, since he has absolute power, whoever is doing all these things, we are still in the example, we are still in that country, right? Whoever is doing these things that we observe here, he has absolute power. Writing 1,000 books, writing infinite number of books is as easy for him as writing one letter. Now we are at the point of, inshallah, when we do the reality, we are going to perhaps think in more detail about this, but we are at the point of Allahu Akbar, saying Allah, God is greater, right? Because our observation, our imagination, our intellect takes us to a point at which point we recognize that we were not able to exhaust what is there to be learned from this. Whoever is the owner of these things, whoever is making these, whoever is the creator, whoever is the beautifier, provider, and so on and so forth, has more than where our imagination and intellect and so on and so forth can go. And at that point, we recognize that we are falling short, and we say, He is greater than this. God is greater, right? We don't try to comprehend and box and frame God and His attributes with our imagination, intellect, and nothing that we have. That's not possible. So we recognize this incapability, and we say God is greater. Allahu Ekber. Bununla beraber her tarafa bak ki hem öyle bir hikmetle her şeyi yerli yerine koyuyor ve öyle mükrimane herkese layık oldukları lütufları yapıyor. Hem öyle ihsanperverane umumi perdeler ve kapılar açıyor ki herkesin arzularını tatmin ediyor. Hem öyle sehavetkarane sofralar kuruyor ki bütün bu memleketin halklarına, hayvanlarına, her bir taifesine has ve layık, belki her bir ferdine mahsus ismiyle ve resmiyle bir tabla-i nimet veriliyor. Together with this, now we came to the point of recognizing the existence and absolute power of the owner of the land. And now we are going to try to think about what kind of an entity that is, what kind of an owner that is. Who are we standing in front of? Whom are we standing? Together with this, look all around and see that He is also placing everything in its proper place with such wisdom. He is benevolently showering everyone with favors that befit them with such munificence. And He is lifting curtains and opening doors generally for all with such beneficence that He is satisfying everyone's desires. Moreover, He is setting up tables with such open-handedness in profusion that to each group of the peoples and animals of this country, nay, to each individual with its private name and description, a specific and befitting table of blessings is being provided. Look around, look all around. So this is, again, we need to look. We can't see these things unless we look. If we close our eyes and don't look, we don't see. But whoever closes his eyes makes the world dark to himself. Not the world still has light. The sun is still shining out there. Look all around and see that he is also placing everything in its proper place with such wisdom. We already talked about this. Ustad is explaining in a more systematic way here, right? Everything is placed in its proper place. I need some molecule that can be transparent in my eye, and a molecule that can be transparent is placed in my eye. I need some molecule when light is shined onto it that looks, brown, and that kind of molecule is put in my beard. I need acid in my stomach and basic material past my stomach, right? Acid to bring down the food into parts, and then basic material past my stomach to break down oils and other things. And those are placed there. Birds need insects. Insects are placed in the plane of spring as the chicks come out from their eggs, as the chicks hatch. Everything is being properly placed in its place, and this manifests absolute wisdom. He is benevolently showering everyone with favors that befit them with such munificence. So he has an attitude toward his, let's call them slaves in this country, his property, right? We are still in the example, the story, right? The owner of this land has an attitude toward his property and people and subjects. Okay, subjects is the better word. He's not just neutral, indifferent, blind to them. No, he sees them and he treats them in certain ways. So what is that way in which he is treating them? What is the manner with which he is interacting and treating his subjects? It's munificence. And then behind munificence, we can see mercy and so on and so forth. But munificence in the sense that he is providing everything what they need. So the placement of things in their proper place indicates wisdom, right? But the wisdom is happening with munificence because when they are placed in their proper place, they're also fulfilling a need. And the fulfillment of that need is not stingy. Everything is being provided with what they need in a way that indicates absolute generosity. And he is lifting curtains and opening doors generally for all with such beneficence that he is satisfying everyone's desires. Even you, my stubborn friend, who does not who does not recognize the owner of this place, even you are being provided, right? This general provision. Those who read the second station of the 14th Flash or listened to the episodes in this podcast will remember this distinction that we made between Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, the merciful and the mercy giver, or Al-Wahid and Al-Ahad, the one and the singular, right? The Wahid means one, ahad means one. What is the difference, right? Ustad Nursi provides us a beautiful explanation of these, but that will be too long to explain here. So you can go ahead and read the second station of the 14th flash, or listen to the episodes from the almost very beginning of this podcast series, inshallah, right? There is this general provision. It rains, and everything that needs water in that plain receives water. Beneficence. Moreover, he is setting up tables with such open-handedness in profusion. He is generous, but he is not generous while poor. He is generous while his storehouses are filled to the brim. Profusion, right? He is setting up tables with such open-handedness in profusion that to each group of the peoples and animals of this country, so he is setting up tables. He's not just throwing things as though like throwing from a plane, right? So that whoever catches something, whoever is fast enough to grab something benefits. No, that's not the case. He is setting up tables for each group of the peoples and animals of this country. And then here Ustad Nursi says, no, that does not explain what I wanted to say. For each individual with his private name and description, a specific and befitting a table of blessings is provided. So it's not just raining from the sky as if they are being thrown from a plane, but a special messenger, a special postman is bringing what we need, what everything needs to it, as though its address is written on it with the address, right? So to delivery to address. So when it rains, everything that needs in that plane, everything that needs water in that plane receives water, right? But that's not all of it. The rain, the water comes down, it rains on the ground, and then it's packaged one by one, and it is sent to each and everything in a cup that is big enough for the needs of that thing that needs that water, and that is shaped in such a way that that particular thing can sip from that cup. The way trees drink water is different from the way that ants drink water, right? Water is provided to trees in a way that tree roots can absorb, and water is provided to birds in a way that birds can dip their beaks and get the water. And this is designation, specific designation. So he, the owner, knows each and every one of his subjects in this country. He knows their lands, and he has concern for them. He is generously providing to them in the way that they need. There's general provision, and then there is designation. İşte dünyada bundan muhal bir şey var mı ki bu gördüğümüz işler içinde tesadüfi işler bulunsun veya abes ve faydasız olsun veya müteaddit eller karışsın veya ustası her şeye muktedir olmasın veya her şey ona musahhar olmasın. İşte ey arkadaş, haddin varsa buna karşı bir bahane bul. So, is there anything more inconceivable in this world than that there will be coincidental affairs among these affairs we see? That they will be futile, serving no benefit. That multiple hands will get involved in them. That their masterful maker will not be capable of everything, or that everything will not be subjugated to him. Here, oh friend, find an excuse to explain this away, if you dare. Is there anything more inconceivable in this world than? So, if we answer what comes after this affirmatively, if we say yes, we will be we will be admitting something that is inconceivable. Okay, so what is it that is inconceivable? That there will be coincidental affairs among these affairs that we see. So we are going around this country. We went out to that plain, we climbed that mountain, we took our binoculars, and we are now observing everything in detail. And we saw all this harmony, all this purposefulness, all this wisdom, and so on and so forth. And then we'll say, well, it's coincidental, just by chance. It happened by chance. Now, if there is this superstition that you will see in Turkey and other places too, that if two slippers that they wear in the house come on top of each other, they say, well, there'll be a guest. A guest is coming. Now you can say, okay, two slippers, one fell on the other, and this is coincidental. There's nothing coincidental in creation, but from an intellectual point of view, for the intellect to be able to admit the possibility of, yes, two slippers can fall on a slipper can fall on the other, that's possible. It can be coincidental. Imagine you won't be able to, but try to imagine the number of subatomic particles, atoms, molecules in the universe. Imagine how they are each playing its part in this beautiful symphony. Said Nursi calls it the orchestra of remembrance, like this beautiful symphony of remembering God. But of course, we are still in the representation, so we will not go there. We will just say symphony. Each playing its part in the symphony. Imagine all the cells, all the tissues, all the organs, all the bodies of living beings in the universe. Imagine how they are each playing their part, how they are harmoniously giving an ear. I mean, they don't have ears, they are deaf, but it's as though they are giving an ear to the others and listening to what they are playing and playing accordingly. Each rushing to the support of the other, each working together. Can this be coincidental? Can, let's say, 10 billion separate entities that we call cells, microbes, viruses, bacteria, come together and act as a single body that will be as perfect as the human body. It will be able to speak, it will be able to see, it will be able to smell, hear, talk, digest, inhale, exhale, all those things. Is that possible? It's not only possible, it's inconceivable. It is inconceivable. Yes, in a world of infinite possibilities, one out of the infinite could be that, but one out of infinite is zero, right? One out of infinite is zero. Let's not deceive ourselves. That they will be futile, serving no benefit. I mean, that is axiomatically, that is bedihi, it is clearly, self-evidently, right? That's self-evidently before our eyes. We see that every part of everything that we see here in this country is serving a purpose. How can the whole not serve a purpose if every part is serving a purpose? And we also granted that this cannot be happening on its own. How can the one that attaches a purpose to each and every part not attach a purpose to the whole thing? That's inconceivable. That multiple hands will get involved in them. this uncountable number of parts are acting in unison, and the orchestra is playing a perfectly harmonious and synchronous music, and we will say, well, the half of the musicians are being informed and mobilized by one conductor, and the other half is being informed and mobilized by another conductor, and these are rival conductors. Doesn't work. Inconceivable. That their masterful maker will not be capable of everything, I mean, this is already miraculous, and whoever does something miraculous can do everything. Or that everything will not be subjugated to him. So 100 musicians playing synchronously, 99 of them are subjugated to the master conductor, and one will not. Would that not make a sound that is out of tune? It would make a sound out of tune. There is nothing that's out of tune here. Again, one may falsely think that human beings are out of tune because of their partial evolution, right? Within the smaller section of the universe that we can observe that may appear to be true, that's how we call, global warming and the extinction of so many species and so on and so forth, right? But if you go beyond that section of the universe and go to look at the entire cosmos, entire existence, even that is serving its purpose perfectly. So here, oh friend, find an excuse to explain this away if you dare. Now, the thing is, you can explain it away. You can say what I just said. You can say, if there were infinite possibilities, one of them could be what we are observing here, and they call this, like, they have fancy names for these things, like multiverse theory. And, therefore, this is what it is. Now, once again, this is only explaining it away, right? This is a world, I mean, we are still in the representation, but the reality of it, the representation represents reality. This is the world of testing and trial. We are here for a purpose, my friend. And I'm addressing my own soul. My friend, my soul, oh my soul. You and I are here for a purpose. This is testing and trial, right? The accountability will never be lifted until we move on to the other realm, which means that you will always be able to find an excuse, not a reason, but an excuse. If you are stubborn, but we need to get real. We need to get real, right? 1 out of infinite is 0. That is not likely. That is inconceivable. That is just you being stubborn in order not to accept reality as reality is. Right? You need to come down to earth. You need to ground your feet, right, on this face of the earth. You need to get real. What is at stake is tremendous. And you cannot just explain these things away and think that you are done. It will catch up with you. It will catch up with you. All right, inshallah, in the next episode, we will continue with the 7th demonstration. Once again, if you are listening on podcast or watching on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the notification button, and share the links, spread the word. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.